Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. Thank you so much, Danny, for allowing me this honor to be here. I am so passionate about this message of the art of delegation. And so thank you guys for spending this time with Danny and I. So I want to start off with just a little bit of a story. So back in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, I helped start another medical home health agency. This is skilled home health agency, RN, PT, OT that goes to the home. So you guys remember the pandemic? It was crazy. People were disappearing, things were getting shut down. It was just pure chaos. And a lot like you guys, I traded in my 40-hour week for constant, never ending work. I mean, I wore every hat, solved every problem, and I kept telling myself something. If I don't do it, who will? I wonder how many times you guys have said that to yourselves just in this past year, right? So for 16 straight months, I worked like that. My health took a hit. I mean, I was like losing hair, gaining weight. My skin was crazy. My relationships were falling apart. I mean, I'm surprised I'm still married, but luckily my husband is very supportive. And this is the worst part. I didn't know what joy felt like anymore. I feel like I was just surviving day after day, weekend after weekend, every holiday. Then one day my husband had enough of that. He stepped in and said, "That's it. I'm taking you away from all of this." And he packed us up and he dragged us to a magical place called Dollywood. Dollywood is in Tennessee. So if there's anybody from Tennessee in here, that's awesome. And so for the first time in over a year, I tried to unplug, but I couldn't. I'd hired someone before I left, but things weren't really going smoothly. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Calls, text messages, questions. The problem is that my new hire didn't respect the boundaries and created more problems than she solved. Then in the middle of it all, I remember specifically, she texted me, said, "Regina, I'm going to lunch." And she never came back. And so this next slide is a picture of me on a bench in Dollywood. And I passed out of frustration. I was so frustrated and disappointed because I felt like me and this girl were even connecting on a personal level. I thought she was there to help me. But then I found myself scrambling again, trying to handle everything from a theme park while my kids were literally yelling at me to please put my phone away. So everybody that's on here, I wonder if you guys have this relate to this picture where you feel like you're sacrificing moments with your loved ones because if because you have to handle something at work, right? Because if you don't feel a last minute shift, that means that someone else's family isn't going to get dinner that night. So that moment at Dollywood was my breaking point, but it was also a turning point for me. I realized that delegation wasn't something I failed at, but it was something I had to learn. I realized too that maybe it was me. I told this young girl, "Call me, text me if you need anything," instead of truly empowering her to take on that role, to take ownership of that role. So since then, I've worked hard to figure out how to delegate in a way that actually works. I learned to hire people who shared my values, how to set clear expectations, and this is key, you guys, protect my time and boundaries. Most importantly, I realized that delegation isn't about losing control. It's about making space for what really matters. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about here today. So that story I just told you guys, it's not just a personal journey. It's a universal lesson in leadership and growth. And that's why we're all here today. As we gather here for this mastermind, I want to remind you guys that the path to success, it doesn't have to be a lonely one. But it does require us to build strong teams, to cultivate trust, and empower others to share in our vision. Today, during the art of today, how we explore the art of delegation, how to develop strategies that align with our values, and create the space we need to focus on strategic priorities. If you want to transform all those challenges that we experience into opportunities for growth and innovation, then this mastermind is for you. And if you want to take your time back and build a company that you don't grow to hate, then again, this mastermind is for you. So let's get at it. A lot of what I'm going to teach you guys comes from 3 key sources: reading countless business books, trying to get myself into rooms with some of the smartest people I could find, like I was just at the Home Care Innovation Forum in Napa yesterday. And most importantly, the 18 years of hands-on experience I have with starting and growing healthcare businesses. So after crying myself to sleep on a bench in Tennessee, I knew something had to change. So I took everything that I've learned and started my own virtual assistant firm, Ascension Business Solutions. It's one of the few firms that are specifically made for home care and healthcare owners. And I've spent the last 3 years perfecting how to support home care and healthcare teams like you. So from 2022 to 2023, the first year that we started, we grew an average of 627%. This wasn't beginner's luck, because in 2023 to 2024, we grew again another 447%. By focusing on delegation and building a strong team while being process-oriented, that's very key. By being process-oriented, we scaled our company from just having a few virtual assistants to having the privilege of providing life-changing opportunities to over 150, nearly 200 well-deserving VAs. Today, I'm proud to say that we serve over 90 home care agencies from Hawaii to New York. And by keeping you guys, our clients, at the center of everything that we do, we've earned the badge of approved and trusted vendor for some of the largest home care franchises in America. I'm not sharing this to impress you, but to impress upon you the power of delegation. It's the single most important skill that's allowed me to achieve this level of success while also helping entrepreneurs like you guys do the same. So if you're not convinced yet, let's bring in the big guns. So who in here believes in learning is earning? So no matter how busy I get with this amount of growth that we're experiencing, I always dedicate time to reading several books a month. Today, I want to share with you some of the most influential books and some of the key lessons that have changed my business. So if you guys love reading books, if you love listening to Audible, if there's, these are some, take a snippet of this, take a screenshot of these books. They're so amazing. So the 80-20 principle says that, backed by decades of studies, it says that an astonishing 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts, right? If you think about it, in home care, if something goes wrong and you need to fill a last-minute shift, you're contacting a small group of really dependable, go-getting caregivers that you could always ask for help. You're not blasting this out to 100% of your caregivers, right? So they're your 20%. Let's think about marketing, right? You're getting most of your referrals from a small group of individuals, case managers, discharge planners, social workers, right? So, but the problem is that most entrepreneurs, we waste our time on the 80% that does not move the needle. Delegation allows you to focus on the high impact 20% that actually drives growth. And at the start of our companies, our entire job as owners is cash flow. That is our 20%. So buy back your time. You guys, I've read this book so many different times and I still pick up such valuable information. He says that most small businesses owners get stuck. No, he says that you don't just hire people to get things off of your plate, but you hire them to buy back your time. These books allow us to have a mindset shift that we are no longer employees, but employers. So how do we act like employers, right? We have to understand in C-suite level, director level, we have to understand that time is our most valuable asset. Therefore, we have to outsource low value tasks. We are no longer paid to do things, but hire smart doers. The E-Myth Revisited, this one's pretty old school. I feel like you can't go through business school without reading this one. He says that most small businesses get stuck working in their business instead of on it, right? So you're going to hear throughout this presentation, strategic priorities. In order to grow your company, you need systems like Enginehire and processes that allow your business to run without you being involved in every single detail. So delegation isn't just helpful, it's essential to building a business that doesn't rely on you 24/7. Our goal really is to build companies that run better without us. So the bottom line is that delegation isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity. And by embracing these principles and giving and pushing these principles down to even your top tier management, your leadership, your A team, you'll not only scale your business, but you'll be able to reclaim your time back, right? We didn't get into home care and healthcare to do payroll or to do quality assurance. We got into this because we believed in a mission. We wanted to change the world in our own little way, right? We have to reduce burnout. Burnout is the number one enemy in healthcare right now. And there is financial cost to burnout. And then we have to create a company that thrives with or without us. So I also follow a lot of millionaires and billionaires. Like I just got back from the Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting with Warren Buffett. And he talks about having a forever student mindset, which I love. You can see that these people, their houses aren't filled with big TVs. They're filled with libraries. And you won't catch them doom scrolling on Instagram for hours on end because all it takes is one good idea to change everything. And let me share with you those ideas of the buyback loop of audit, transfer, fill. This has allowed me to level up my business again and again and again. So when I started my business, Ascension Business Solution, and a lot of my adult career, to be honest, I had this, what the book calls a GSD mentality. It stands for get shit done. And that meant that I was taking on everything myself. Does this sound familiar to all the control freaks on this webinar? Maybe it's you, or maybe it's someone that you actually hired to help you run your business. But let me show you why this mindset has to shift. So once I proved my idea that using virtual assistants for healthcare was a hit, I got buried in emails, nonstop meetings. I did social media, recruiting, onboarding, firing. There was no room for strategic growth because my company actually stalled because I was busy doing everything instead of building systems and teams. And this is the sad part. I realized I wasn't running my business, but my business was running me. And the lack of streamlined processes made me the bottleneck of my own company. I was stuck in this hard work mode and I couldn't scale. But this is how I turned it around. I implemented the buyback loop of audit, transfer, fill. I started by auditing my time to identify tasks that I could delegate. Then I hired key roles to take ownership of those tasks, effectively replacing myself every 3 to 6 months. So for example, first things first, If you don't have an assistant in your business, guess what? You are the assistant. You're an overpaid assistant that's actually not doing it really good, right? So admin work, people to manage your inbox, your calendars, all these things that don't necessarily require my unique skill set, that's the first thing to do. Then I brought on an operation manager who was a game changer. She trained our virtual assistants to create standard operating procedures for all of our clients. So if you guys worked with us and you needed help with recruiting, we would build you SOPs for every single task that you teach us. Then she implemented systems for accountability and transparency, like sending end of day reports. So as owners, you always know what your VA is done and accomplished that day. This transformed our client experience, turning us from a simple VA company into a long-term growth partner for our clients. As the business grew, I continued the loop. I hired a success manager who handled onboarding, something that was very time consuming, and I didn't really like doing it. So again, think about these things, you guys. What are the things that you don't necessarily love doing? These time sucks that's keeping you bogged down and tied to your computer. Then I hired a recruiter who hired better and faster, an HR manager who created top-notch training programs for each virtual assistant role. So if you hired us to be a recruiter, a scheduler, someone to do on-call, intake, sales, social media, we have in-depth training programs for each one of those roles. But each time I've hired someone, it allowed me to focus again on my strategic growth, my 20%. Initiatives like building power partnerships with people like Danny, getting ABS to be recognized as one of the best virtual assistant firms in America, and expanding into new states and continents. Every time I transferred a task to someone who could do it faster, better, and with more passion, I then filled my time with higher value activities that drove revenue and filled me with joy. Today, I'm laser focused on planning and growing our agency. My team can execute ruthlessly because I've empowered them, I've trusted them, and they take ownership of their role. And I'm pretty excited to say this, we got our first Canadian client just last night. That was my 2025 goal. It's May and we got there. But how did we get there? How would I be able to get my company there if I was stuck doing all of this other stuff, right? So the buyback loop isn't just a strategy. It's a mindset that ensures that we're always working on what matters most, right? We can't confuse being busy with being productive. So now you might be wondering, how does this apply to me? Well, what is your 20%? Let's uncover what tasks are holding you back from focusing on your 20%. How much of your time is spent putting out fires, managing day-to-day operations, or handling tasks that easily someone else can do? And if you're stuck doing those things, how much time are you dedicating to growing your agency? So if you want to reclaim your time and scale your agency, success starts with intentionality. And here's a clear roadmap you can follow to reclaim your time. So Danny or Ian, if you could drop the workbook in the chat again, or it's already in here. But if you want to just, if you guys want to open, it says latest ABS workbook. This workbook, you can print it out and you can give it to your team because again, you know, it's not just about us as owners, but your top tier people. Are they focusing on their 20% as well? Are they focusing on what you truly paid them for? Some of these administrators are like $100,000 a year. Your business development girlies, they're not cheap. So are they focusing on their 20%? So the first things first, next slide, is that we need to, next slide after that one. we need to calculate your hourly value. Again, your time is your most valuable resource. So we have to determine how much it's actually worth. Next slide. So this is a really easy computation to use. You want to take your annual income goal. Again, if you're the owner, how much do you want to make, right? And honestly, don't lowball yourself. If you want to make 500,000, be real about that. When I left my director position, corporate position, I was making over 250,000. So I told myself my income goal has to be no less than 200,000. Then you divide that by the hours you work in a year and the hours in a week and the weeks in the year. For example, again, if you aim to earn 200,000, then you work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, then your hourly value is then 100. If you're paying someone $100,000, then their hourly value is $50. So now we have to ask yourself, are you spending your time on high value tasks that equate to $100 an hour? Or are you doing low value tasks that could easily be delegated for $15 an hour? Are your top paid employees focusing on high impact work? Or are they stuck doing tasks that could easily be outsourced for much less? Here's a very practical example, you guys. I don't necessarily love scrubbing toilets in my house. So what did I do? I outsourced it. I found a company and they send 2 girls who clean my house for 4 hours each month. And that I pay them $210. My hourly value is $100. Compare that to theirs of 26. That is a no-brainer, right? But get this, I get to get my 8 hours back. We only have Saturdays and Sundays to ourselves. I don't want to spend 8 hours cleaning my house. Now I can use that 8 hours to do things that fill me with joy, like sleeping in, or I like to do boozy brunches with my girlfriends. I like to spend time with my mom and dad while that option is still on the table for me. I can play pickleball with my husband, right? Just imagine what you could do with 8 more hours of weekends. Then, once you have your hourly value, you need to audit your time. To focus on what truly matters, you need to see where your time is going. So, this is how you use this table. Next week, you have to pick 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. If you have time, Monday through Friday, and really track where your time is going. Again, this could be for you as the owner, or this could be for your management team. The people that are always saying, Regina, I don't have enough time. They're always late, missing deadlines. Their productivity has hit a plateau. Have them do this project, and you will easily identify which things are low task or high task, high value, low value, high value, right? And then once you have audited your time, cross-reference that with your hourly value, now we can transfer, audit transfer, right? Transfer means that you can either hire internally or outsource to a trusted partner like Ascension Business Solutions. Reclaiming your time means that you empower others to handle the 80%. So you can focus on the 20% that truly drives growth. Here's a good tip. Focus on the tasks that you don't really enjoy or aren't skilled at, right? Those are prime candidates for outsourcing. So there's 2 ways you can go about outsourcing or transferring. You hire internally. These are ideal for roles that require close collaboration and internal knowledge, like your business development people, your operations managers, your care coordinators that are going into the homes. But Have you guys considered why outsourcing and using virtual assistants is so popular? Next slide, please. This is a very cost-effective and scalable solution. Why? Look at this cost comparison, right? Virtual assistant versus employee, in-house employee. You can bypass very costly salaries. I mean, if you tell me I work from New York, California, Hawaii, Connecticut, Maine, it doesn't matter what state you're in, we have a cost comparison analysis for that. You don't have to pay for all sorts of federal and state required taxes, right? You don't have to provide benefits because I provide my team with benefits. You don't have to provide overhead because I provide our virtual assistants with work laptops, noise canceling headset, Ring Central, so that way they can stay in touch with you. Also, you can cut back on time spent on recruiting, training, and managing these employees. Also, it mitigates risks like employee-related lawsuits, which is unfortunately something our industry struggles with. And it eliminates unnecessary overhead. Also, I would like to add that if your in-house person quit today, would you be able to replace that person in a matter of days? Probably not. But if you outsource to companies like ours, we do have contingency plans. If a VA isn't the right fit, which it happens sometimes, we have a contingency plan for that. So it minimizes the disruption within your companies. Okay. So no matter what, whoever you hire, whether it's internal or outsource, you have to then empower your team. How do you empower your team? Trust, but verify. Again, to truly let go, you must empower your team to solve these problems and holding them accountable for doing so, right? We cannot be helicopter moms and dads. We have to let them make mistakes and be there to give them some guidance. So if you want to build a team, this is one of my favorite techniques that I've ever learned. It's called the 1-3-1 method. So if someone comes to you and say, Regina, we have a recruiting problem. My client has a recruiting problem. You can say, well, did you do your 1-3-1? If not, go back, set some time with me tomorrow. And I'm really looking forward to the solution that you recommend. The 1-3-1 says that when a team member approaches you with an issue, have them articulate the one problem, right? Focus in on the one problem because a problem properly identified is a problem half solved. Then have them come up with 3 solutions. Ask them to present 3 viable solutions for solving the issue. This builds their resourcefulness and critical thinking skills. Then ask them to give you the number 1 recommendation. Have them choose and explain the best option based on their research. And more often than not, they'll discover the solution themselves. Again, we're pushing the problem back to the front line because, to be honest, they have the most context anyways, right? We don't want to be the bottleneck of our own company. 1-3-1, love it. Then once they've done that, have them build an SOP, a standard operating procedure. So many times I'm in a room full of, let's say, 50 people, and I'll say, how many of you guys have your SOPs documented? Not even 10% will raise their hands. And you wonder why teams are so unaligned. Building SOPs doesn't have to be this crazy business document full of jargon, right? It should look like a children's book, lots of pictures, arrows pointing here, circle that. Use words that anyone can understand. They don't have to be intimidating, but it's more like a map from A to B. Then have them do what I'm doing, like a demo. Have them present to you the SOPs, but this is a chance for you to give them feedback. I teach my virtual assistants that feedback is a gift. Give your team, say, hey, you know what? I might have forgot to tell you this when I first hired you, but when we're recruiting in California, you have to go to this website to make sure that their CNA license is good to go and add that in there, right? And then, but I do want to remind you guys that trust but verify does not mean you're micromanaging. You're empowering them to take ownership and practice their leadership skills. Over time, the system creates more leaders on your team and allows you, again, to step away from every single detail. SOPs, love it. Also, finally, I would say, manage your expectation, you guys, especially us women. Perfectionism is self-sabotaging. If you keep telling yourself, no, Regina, no one's going to love my company like I do, you're right. You're 100% right. Right? But I've begun to tell myself, if someone can do it 80% like I would, but that allows me to get back my time with my husband and my kids and my dogs, then that's 100% better every single time. So remember, you guys, how you frame things really matters. Then identify and avoid what we call the whirlwind. So the whirlwind is this endless cycle of low value tasks that pull you away from strategic growth. And what's worse is sometimes we're the ones that are volunteering for these things. They're low impact activities like getting dragged into countless meetings, screening a flood of caregivers just to fill an open shift, instead of saying, hey, recruiter, this is what I hired you for, let's get at it. Coming into work exhausted because you're on call every night, every weekend, every holiday, right? Getting stuck behind the desk, answering the never-ending flow of emails and calls. And again, sometimes we're the ones that volunteer for you because you say, oh, it'll just be faster if I do it. No, we have to practice discipline and allow the whirlwind to pass us by. Because once you spend 3 hours getting sucked into the whirlwind, you'll never get that back. And that's the 3 hours that kept you away from focusing on your 20%. Or you can be a little bit more disciplined and say, every day, give time blocking 2 hours and calling it 20%. So that way your team knows, do not bother me during this during these 2 hours, because this is what I'm focusing on. You can also tell your team that, and saying, hey, I need you to dedicate 2 hours once a day, every week, to focus on the really problematic issues. I don't want you solving the smallest issues. I want you to focus on the hardest issues that only you can solve. And then you have to stay committed. Again, staying committed to these high value activities that align with your hourly value and the goals that you've set aside. Freeing yourself from these distractions is how you scale your agency and live a life that we've always wanted to, right? I went from never taking vacations to being like a European. Now I could take August off. Now I could take the entire month of December off because I know that my team has my back, because I've trained them. We have SOPs that they can lean on, and I've empowered them. And even if they make mistakes, it's not that big of a deal. So audit, transfer, fill. Fill your time with high value activities. What does this look like? Who here has all these crazy back burner projects that you've been wanting to do, right? Like getting your website to be SEO rich. Maybe that means getting blogging done for your website. Maybe that means implementing these high level strategies that your business coaches keep recommending. Because a lot of us do have coaches. If you don't, you should. I mean, Serena Williams has coaches. Kobe Bryant had coaches. Actively building power partnerships. People or hospitals, rehab centers, hospice agencies, senior living communities, right? Even as an owner, I'm still the one going out there and making the phone ring because I feel like that's something that I have to do. How about going to industry conferences, but not just showing up, but actually having the bandwidth to focus absorb new insights, and staying ahead of trends, like using virtual assistants and regulations, right? You guys can't believe how many times I go to these conferences and owners are running out of the room to pick up a phone. Or worse, they send their operations manager, and guess what? She's on her computer the whole time working. If that's you, this is a sign that you should probably delegate. Expanding your services by specializing in different care offerings like offering dementia care or post-surgical recovery programs, something that will set your agency apart. Strengthening community ties, making sure that your agency is seen as a trusted and engaged partner in your local area. This is a hard one. Refining your company's brand and culture. That building a culture is one of the hardest things to do as an owner. But this is how you attract and retain not just the best clients, but exceptional caregivers and staff. This is the one I love the most, investing in yourself and mastering a new leadership skill. So if you were to tell me 3 years ago that, Regina, you're going to be delivering the art of delegation as a keynote speaker in front of 400 people, I probably would have passed out or thrown up. But I knew I had to do that. I knew I had to master public speaking because I'm so passionate about the art of delegation. I'm so passionate about helping business owners reclaim their time, allowing husbands and wives to have dinners together uninterrupted, letting dads and moms go to soccer games and not be on their phone the whole time in the background. That's what I'm passionate about. What are you guys passionate about if you got some of that time back? So true leadership is not about trying to do it all on your own, but it's about mastering the art of delegation by empowering others and trusting in their abilities and focusing on what truly requires your unique attention. You can create a force far greater than yourself. Success comes from working smarter, not harder, and by building a team where every member truly thrives in their purpose. Remember, you guys, that the greatest leaders are those who lift others up, multiplying their own impact through shared vision and trust. So delegate boldly, lead wisely, and watch your goals become a reality. Thank you.
Regina, thank you so much for that. That was amazing. I took so many notes. I can't even count all of the bullet points I have here. From feedback as a gift, SOPs should look like a children's book. I have like so much stuff. This is amazing. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for Regina? This is, half of why we do the webinars is to give you the opportunity to actually talk to our guests because they have all of the knowledge. And as I just said, I took so many notes. I'm certain many of you have taken tons of notes. If anybody has any questions, throw them in the chat, or even feel empowered to unmute yourself and just ask. And then you'll also see in the chat, Ian from Regina's team threw in a calendar to meet with Regina and her team to discuss any of your needs. Yeah, does anybody have any questions? I know the silence gets weird and lingers, but I've also figured out that that's when people get their confidence to actually ask the question. I'll ask, when else should, like, what is that like final step of like when someone should really be calling you, Regina? Like, you gave a lot of great, like, this could be you. But what is that like final thing when someone goes like, they're like, I wish I had called you sooner? Like, is there any of those you can share?
So sometimes owners call me and they say, well, I'm just getting licensed in my state. I need a virtual assistant now. And even though I would love to, sell my services more, I tell them that you have to be able to teach a virtual assistant what you know And as a new owner, you don't know what you don't know yet. So I would always say that be in your business for at least minimum 3 months, 3 to 6 months before you get your own virtual assistant. Because again, it's like you have to be a master, not the Padawan, right? And so, and then you'll kind of just start to realize what are the tasks that are holding you back. You've audited your time and you go, I don't want to be in my emails anymore. I don't want to answer every single call. I need to be out there marketing and getting new business. And so that's a good telltale sign, is when you feel like you're about 3 to 6 months in and your growth has kind of stalled. You're kind of stuck within, like, let's just say 500 to 1,000 billable hours, and you're not growing. Another way to decide when you need help is when you feel like, oh my God, I was so busy today, but I don't know what I've accomplished. Again, that's a sign of being busy, but not productive. Um, we always want to say that get a virtual assistant not too late. We want to learn how to swim in calm waters, not when there's like blood in the water, right? So right around before you hit 1,000 billable hours, like 500 to 1,000 billable hours per week in home care. But we also do home health and hospice. We work with dentists. We work with all sort of healthcare professionals, telehealth providers, primary care providers. So yeah, and that link that he sent, that's a good way for us to understand your needs. We're going to ask you these questions. We're going to ask you what motivated you to have this call. And everybody's motivation is different. My motivation is like, I want to buy back my time. I don't want to work 7 days a week anymore. I've done that. Some people are like, you know what? I don't want to grow that much, but I don't love doing payroll. I don't love doing that anymore. So I want to hand that off. Or someone can say, I'm not really the best at selling my services. So I have to hire someone that can speak intelligently when the phone does ring, right? We can do those calls or handle your on-call weekends and holidays. So that way you can show up for your team the best way.
Amazing, thank you. And following up on that, is there anything that a virtual assistant really can't handle in general? Or like, is there like, what is like the cutoff points of like where I'm like, oh, virtual assistant would be great here, and you'd be like, Danny, actually don't with that one.
Yeah, I would say sales, right? Sales is one of the hardest things to do because I've been in sales. I was the director of business development for many, many years. You have to go out there and not just drop off your brochure and think that's going to stick. You have to go out there several times and build these connections and find opportunities to connect with the decision makers, people that are going to refer to you. And guess what? You're probably the 10th person that they've seen this week doing the exact same thing. That requires an immense amount of intentionality and effort. That's not something your VA can do. But what can we take off of your plate that's stopping you from doing that? Right? Another thing is administrators, care coordinators. The care coordinators, they're the ones that are going out into the field and making sure that your clients are being taken care of, that your caregivers are doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're providing more of that nurturing and mentorship. That's not something our VAs can do, but more often than not, these care providers, these care coordinators, they're doing recruiting, they're doing scheduling, they're doing all these different things. But again, let us take that off of their plate, right? We're not replacing your in-house team, we're augmenting them. So that way your in-house team can focus on these high-level strategies. So I would say if you want us to be like, yeah, we will do the busy work, the necessary work, the grunt work that is going to keep your business running smoothly. And because it's so cost effective, maybe that can allow you to hire more higher caliber individuals, people that are going to cost have expensive salaries.
Amazing. Marilyn Ann just jumped into the chat and she said, what type of time tracking do you recommend to ensure your VA is working?
Good question, Marilyn. So when you hire a virtual assistant from us, we manage our team. And we send your virtual assistant will send you an end of day report. So if you're using Teams, Slack, Google, they're going to be contacting you every day. They're going to say, hi, good morning, Marilyn, every morning. Hey, Marilyn, clocking out for today, sending you the end of day report. So we're not tracking them hour by hour, right? Because our VAs, we have trained them. We only hire bachelor degree VAs, people that are ready and wanting to work. And we have to put them through a very vigorous 80-hour training program. Not everyone makes it through our training program. So when they come to you, these people, you don't have to micromanage them. And what we do is we bill our clients on a 2-week basis, kind of like a payroll. We bill you 2 weeks in the rear. So let's say, Memorial Day is coming up, right? Then we would only bill you for 9 days, that period. Do you have any other questions about that, Marilyn? Like if you ever have any questions too, you can always reach out to your client success manager. So you have access to not just a virtual assistant, but your VA is being monitored by team leaders. Their team leaders are being managed by our C-suite, our director level management team. Also, if they have questions, if they say, hey, Marilyn wants to do recruiting in a different way, they can ask our team, what are the best practices that you guys have done to be successful for other companies? Because we've been doing this for 3 years. So not just saying, I don't know, Marilyn, what the answer is. They can say, hey, Marilyn, I talked to my team. I did some research. I think these are the solutions that are viable. When some time to talk to you about it, so that way you can decide with me. So the amount of support and love that our VAs get on an individual level is so incredible, which I think makes them world-class VAs.
Can I ask in a similar type of way, like how long does it take to get a VA up to speed, or like what's the expectation of like starting with someone and onboarding them to kind of understand what their role is?
That's a good question. So just like caregivers and owners, right? We want to make sure that we have enough caregivers so that way when you get a client, you're always saying yes. That's the same with us. We hire about 15 to 20 new virtual assistants a week. And again, they have to go through our 2-week training program. Sometimes it's 3 weeks, sometimes it's 4 weeks, depending on what role you're looking for. So Danny, if you said, I need a recruiter, then we have recruiters that can start as soon as Monday, right? Or if you need a scheduler, which has been in high demand, we would be able to start you on June 2nd, which would be in 2 weeks. So typically it takes us 1 to 2 weeks to get the right virtual assistant started. And what's nice is that you have a choice. We're going to send you 3 virtual assistants that are specific to recruiting or specific to scheduling, and you can hear what they sound like, and you can do a meet and greet and ask them even more questions, like, because it matters. You want to make sure that your VA is jiving with your in-house team, and so you can select that. And then once you've selected your virtual assistant, then we're going to say, okay, June 2nd, we're going to start the onboarding process. And the onboarding process is actually facilitated by one of our success managers. They're going to say, Marilyn, we need access to WellSky, Indeed, LinkedIn, all these different tools. We need our own access to that. Do you have your own VoIP system? Do you have any SOPs? If not, that's okay. We'll create them. But our onboarding process is very hands-on too, because we say this, your success is our success.
Amazing. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? before we let Regina go and clearly either go back to working really hard or living like a European. I'm not sure whichever way you might go. That was amazing. Marilyn, just ask one more time. Where are the VAs from?
So all of our virtual assistants are from the Philippines. The Philippines is the #1 country for outsourcing because of our English is so good. So just a little bit of backstory. The Philippines became a territory of America back after World War II. And during that time, they said that you have to teach your curriculum in English. Even though we're independent now as a country, that never went away. So they're teaching and using English since grade 1. And again, I only hire people that have bachelor's degrees. And so that's a big, big concern for a lot of our clients. What do they sound like? Marilyn, if you ever wanted, anybody, if you guys ever wanted to hear what our virtual assistants sound like, just email us, text us, whatever, or book a demo and we can send you what they sound like before you move on with anything else.
Amazing. Marilyn, did that answer your question? Oh, Peter jumped in. He said, I have 3 contractors in the Philippines and absolutely love the work ethic and service heart that their culture cultivates. Oh, wow. That's just amazing.
Peter, thank you so much for saying that. Again, the Philippines, it's not just their English that is outstanding, it's our culture. We're very family oriented. It's not uncommon to have multiple generations in one home. So that translates to us being very respectful. Like we want to help. We're very ethical. You know, it's one of the biggest Christian countries in Asia. That's ingrained in us from a really young age. And we also teach our virtual assistants how to be empathetic, right? If a caregiver is calling and they're upset, there's a reason, right? If a client calls and they're yelling at you, don't yell back. They're probably upset because they're coming from a place of pain. Maybe they're physical pain, or maybe it's emotional pain because my kids don't visit me anymore. And the one person that comes to see me is always late. That you can approach that with empathy and deal with people, give people with respect.
Thank you. Regina, thank you so much. And just before we leave, where should people go to learn more about you and Ascension Business Solutions?
Yeah, feel free to go to our website. It's at what is it? I'll send a link. It's
Ian
AB.
dropped it in.
Okay, good. Ian's my guy. Thank you guys so much. I hope that this was helpful. And if you guys ever want me to do the art of delegation, even for your own in-house team, I would love to. I'd be honored to.
Perfect. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.